I'm working on a mix for a gentleman by the name of Francis McCann, local artist here in LA that has got some really interesting stuff. The first of which is I took the files that he recorded somewhere else and I bounced it to tape. Partly because I knew that the sound of the Studer tape machine that I have would really benefit the sound of his music, but also listening back to it, I think the sound of the tape was kind of helpful at reining in some of the dynamics that were recorded digitally. That is one of the things. Digital is very good at capturing the transient energy of music, and analog tends to soften those edges a bit. So one of the things that I did prior to actually bouncing it to tape is I bounced several of the tracks through my 175B compressor. It has a really cool sound, very soft, very old compressor. I think it's from the early 60s. I can't use it for everything because it does have a very soft, old sound to it. In fact, there's so much gain built into that particular compressor, you could almost use it as a preamp, and I've done it before. I also ran a lot of this stuff through my Pultec, which you guys have seen pictures of before, I'm sure. It does the same thing. It gives a very soft, round, big sound. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes here and kind of run you guys through what I'm doing in the mix. So the important thing to understand with this particular mix, it was sent to tape and then back again into Pro Tools. It was all done synchronized with the tape machine, and I'm mixing it on the board sort of by hand. I am using a little bit of automation in the box, but a lot of what you're hearing is actually stemmed out through the board and going through the Neve mix bus, which also further softens the sound and gives it that nice Neve sort of warm, fat characteristic. I'm doing a heavy amount of compression on the mix bus, honestly more than I should. I'm hitting the Neve 2254 compressors and I'm shaving off about 1.5 dB. And then from there, I'm hitting my EQ, which is a Manley Massive Passive, and I'm doing some correction on the low mids because the Neve tends to accumulate a lot of that. And then, of course, the very last step, I'm dumping back into my SSL G384, which is my sort of SSL mix bus compressor. I really dig it. I've been using it for 15 years, and it's a big part of my final sound. So it's going through that and getting another 1.5 dB as well. So almost 4 dB of compression on the mix, and you can hear it. It sounds pretty compressed. I'm going to move some things around and give you guys some shaky footage of kind of what's happening here on the board, so you can actually get a feel for what I'm doing in the mix itself. So what we got going on here, we'll kind of go from the bottom up. I basically have stemmed out my drums, kick, snare, the toms are being blended together, as are the hat and the overheads. Kind of set roughly in the range of 0. Nothing really fancy going on here. Everything is being panned out to the left-right bus. I'm using a little bit of AMS RMX on ambient mode for my reverb send. Up here, you can see what's going on with the EQ. If you really look at these knobs, I'm not really applying much EQ across the board. So over here, for instance, if we look at the kick drum, we are adding a little bit, there's definitely some stuff going on with the kick and the snare, but the rest of the stuff is actually not much EQ. As we sort of move over here to the other half of the board, this is a stereo acoustic, so he's being put together sort of as a left-right thing. I'm summing several guitar tracks together, and then of course panning them out left-right. We have the keys, which consist of a sample or a loop, and then a Hammond, it sounds like he's got a B3, and then background vocals. And that's kind of what's going on here. Everybody's getting a little bit of the AMS reverb. And then in terms of EQ, you'll notice a little bit of top end on the background vocals, a little bit of top end on the keyboards, and some mid-range just to get it to kind of fill out. But I'm not using a lot of EQ on the board. The vocal ended up being put here, not how I would prefer to do it, but it was the only hole I had left in my board once I fanned everything out. And I don't think I'm not even using the EQ on it. Moving over to the 2254, that's my mix bus compressor. This one's been modified by Tom Doty over at Paramount Music Group here in Hollywood. Tom's a really good tech, and I complained about the sound of these compressors for a while. He dialed them in and got them to sound really good for me, and they're actually being used on pretty much every mix that I do now. And these are the settings. I'm not doing much compression, like I say, 1.5 to 1. The auto attack has been modified. I forget what the modifier is, but it does work really well. I'm using my tape returns over here. I forgot to label them. These are actually the Pro Tools reverb returns, so I have discrete outputs for just my reverbs. The AMS is here, and I'm using my tri-chorus on the mix as well. We'll go ahead and include some footage of all of these pieces so you can kind of see what's going on.
Beautiful, what have we done? I can't put my finger on what this feeling really means. She hesitates when I ask if this is where she wants to be. And now I know I gotta let her leave. Somewhere she'll be happy. Somewhere over the sea. Sometimes I'll get angry that someone wasn't me. Sometimes it's hard to make a move when you've got so much left to lose. It's a little more than I can bear, 'cause I need something to hold me down, like an anchor in the mud, 'cause it's been a hell of a year. Somewhere she'll be happy. Somewhere over the sea. Sometimes I'll get angry that someone wasn't me. She'll be the songbird in my tree. She'll be the moon staring back at me. She'll be in everything I see. Somewhere she'll get married. Somewhere over the sea. Sometimes I'll get angry that someone wasn't me. Sometimes I'll get angry that someone